There are some feuds that transcend normal conflict and become an art form. And the master of this is Donald Trump. He knows the art of altercation like the back of his totally normal hand. Trump's faced many worthy opponents: Hillary Clinton, laws, even his own neck, where he has a prolapsed pelvic floor.
It's the cycle we find ourselves in. First law of Trumpodynamics. Every action is met with a very not equal overreaction, thus throwing off our ability to know when is actually getting real.
Have you ever seen a comedy ambush so wild you feel like the audience should have been wearing safety goggles? Because honestly, when Desi Lydic and Jon Stewart teamed up and went after Trump, it felt like the thermostat filed a complaint. Their jokes were so sharp they could cut paperwork, and every metaphor came in swinging hard enough to bruise a billionaire's ego. It was one of those moments where you're watching like, okay, is Trump gonna clap back, melt, or pretend none of this is happening? Stay with me, because breaking down this whole thing is pure, uncontrollable entertainment.
But aside from that one slip-up, President Trump did a great job of letting the Prime Minister walk him from one side of the room to the other. It kind of makes me wonder if Donald Trump could have a real future as a show dog.
Introducing one of the favorites of tonight's show, the old American beaver hound.
What us up is his obsession with the concept of the leverage that he has.
We have all the leverage if you know what you're doing.
We do have leverage because we're the pot of gold.
Using my leverage, and it's a tremendous leverage, and I used it before very well.
You don't have the leverage!
Chaos didn't just show up that night. It rolled in like it owned the place. Cruising on a gold-plated golf cart with a spray tan bright enough to confuse satellites. And then Desi stepped forward with that smile she gets when she knows the jokes she hasn't even delivered yet are already paying the rent. You could feel the shift instantly. The room braced itself because the roasting was about to get real.
Of course, it wouldn't be a Trump trip overseas without a visit to the U.S. troops who are stationed in every country in the world for reasons that are never quite clear. And after the Prime Minister made Trump feel so comfortable, he thought it was only fair for him to return the favor by bringing her along to make her feel uncomfortable.
But the cherished alliance between the United States and Japan is one of the most remarkable relationships in the entire world.
If you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit subscribe and tap the bell. But anyway, Jon jumped in like it was nothing, tossing around irony like seasoning on a 5-star humiliation feast. The jokes hit so hard the Wi-Fi practically lagged out of embarrassment. The crowd didn't even need to cheer. The laughter alone was shaking the walls like an emotional earthquake.
Although, just in case I'm misinterpreting, what is this purge about exactly?
Breaking news, the mass firing of government agency watchdogs.
Trump fired at least 17 inspectors general.
No! He got rid of 17 inspectors general. That only leaves no one knows how many left. The point is, we have 17 less inspectors general. Who knows how many generals will now go uninspected?
The whole room turned into straight entertainment fuel as Desi started pulling apart contradictions like she was twisting balloon animals and handing them out to the audience. Jon layered in his signature seasoned cynicism, building comedy skyscrapers on top of flimsy logic and then casually lighting a match under them. None of it felt personal. It felt like pure performance art.
And after the gift giving, it was time for some ceremony. So the Prime Minister showed off her new friend Trump to a gathering of uniformed soldiers. We see here in this solemn moment of respect, two allies totally in sync. Wait. Mr. President, where are you going? Nope, that's the kitchen. Whoops, nope, over here. No, Mr. Trump, back over here. Hold on.
When the laughter finally settled a little, Desi flipped into investigative comedian mode, going through Trump's public behavior like she was grading homework he definitely didn't study for. Every exaggeration became a prop. Every dramatic statement turned into glitter, and every boast bloomed into this over-the-top Broadway moment. She delivered a breakdown so sharp, even a marble statue would rethink its life choices. Her subtlety
basically a marching band trapped in a phone booth. Every punchline was crafted like fine furniture carved from pure nonsense, and the sarcasm slid across the room so smoothly the cameras looked like they needed a cigarette afterward. She unpacked Trump's greatest hits, the bravado, the self-awarded praise, the allergy to accountability, and turned them into a full comedy slideshow powered entirely by disbelief. By the end, the contradictions were connecting into a constellation of chaos big enough to deserve its own horoscope.
It really feels like it's spiraling out of control. It seems like the smart move is to back off this whole thing, but Trump's team has been adamant that they will stay the course.
This is not a negotiation.
It's not the kind of thing you can negotiate away.
I don't think there's any chance that President Trump's going to back off his tariffs.
The president made it clear yesterday this is not a negotiation.
Trump posted this morning, "My policies will never change."
Well, that's it then. They're in it to win it. Full speed ahead, from the window to the walls.
Jon followed with this legendary segment framing Trump's public persona as the world's most ambitious denial management project. His reenactments felt like a documentary narrated by sarcasm itself. Every meltdown, every victory lap, every self-celebration played like scenes from an action movie where no one bothered hiring a script supervisor. One skeptical eyebrow from Jon delivered more humiliation than a dissertation on self-awareness. And Desi wasn't done either. She dove right into the theatrics of Trump's grievance era, where even the smallest criticism turned into a full Broadway tragedy. Every disagreement morphed into a conspiracy. Every bad poll became an injustice. And every interviewer was suddenly an enemy of destiny. Jon sliced through the gap between confidence and credibility with surgical precision, as Trump kept inventing dramatic red carpet announcements for achievements that existed purely in his imagination.
NPC Chuck Schumer laid it out. What Trump did violated the law. He can't just fire these people.
Title V, Section 403 of the U.S. Code, federal law, an inspector general may be removed by the president.
What? So what's the purge? What's the Why do I have an act?
By this point, the comedy wasn't just roasting. It felt like historical preservation. The humor hit with the intensity of something that should qualify for political science credit. Desi volleyed satire back and forth so smoothly, the air itself felt electrified. Each joke stacked higher than the one before, until the whole segment looked like a skyscraper made from logic and derailed egos. She analyzed Trump's interviews like she was studying wildlife in the wilderness of defensiveness. Deflect, deny, brag, repeat. She painted his self-mythology like a comic book series where the hero fights villains built entirely from insecurity and imagined enemies. Trump came off like the busiest legend in his own mind. Too important to question, too accomplished to doubt, and sometimes too confused to remember the timeline.
Trump's policy will never, ever change.
This is CNN Breaking News.
The president announcing just minutes ago that he's now, quote, authorized a 90-day pause on some of his new tariffs.
What? The trade war's over? But it's Tariff Day. I shaved my legs for this. Now I have to grow it all back.
The audience wasn't laughing at Trump. They were laughing at the massive performance of confidence collapsing under its own weight. Jon jumped in pretending to hand out awards. Most dramatic entrance, most unnecessary exaggeration, the usual Ego Olympics categories. He kept a straight face while delivering each imaginary trophy with this almost spiritual level of disbelief. Desi pushed things even further with a montage-style monologue built from Trump's rally highlights, turning every chant into a theme park jingle and every grievance into an opera moment. The payoffs were so big, the audience practically levitated. And she didn't even have to exaggerate. The raw material was already comedic gold.
For some reason, we have given presidents the power of a king. And then we say, oh, by the way, like with that power, you're not going to get all like kingly and shit on us, right? To put that in constitutional terms, if I could, don't hate the player, hate the founding fathers. That's not, why do we even have it? Because I don't know if you've met Donald Trump, he pushes shit.
President Trump deploying executive action to end birthright citizenship.
This unconstitutional, un-American attack.
Things escalated again when Desi leaned into the emotional poetry of Trump's social media era, comparing his frantic posting storms to a Greek tragedy performed entirely in capital letters. Every meltdown felt like a Shakespeare monologue delivered by someone fighting his phone's autocorrect. It was an epic of self-celebration. Jon wrapped the whole saga with a cinematic montage of Trump celebrating imaginary victories as inspirational music blasted in the background. It was absurd, dramatic, and straight-up hilarious, the perfect final hit of satire.
He has a prolapsed pelvic floor. But one of his most personal feuds is with his own hometown, New York City.
New York has a problem. This is now a city in decline. Filthy dirty. The job they do is horrible. It's become a crime-infested place. Mothers can't walk their children to the park without fear of being shot.
It's a disturbing picture. Moms being stuck inside with their children all day. But Trump didn't always think New York was a New York too.
In the end, Trump wasn't undone by rage or anger. He was undone by comedy, holding up the world's most accurate funhouse mirror. Jon didn't attack, he just reflected the persona back at him until the weight of it collapsed. The laughter didn't fade either. It settled into the room like permanent wallpaper. Desi leaned into that post-roast glow with the confidence of someone who's seen peak absurdity up close. Each exaggerated celebration got louder and more glitter-covered until even the imaginary crowd got bored. Jon returned like a man just back from a sabbatical in disbelief, walking through Trump's media battles like rivalries powered entirely by self-inflicted drama. Every network was a villain, every headline a betrayal, every tough question a heroic victory for not answering anything.
That's the key misunderstanding here. Trump is so arrogant. He thinks the leverage is his. It's ours. We the people. And it took us 200. It's not your leverage. Why would you even think it is? It took the people 250 years of striving to live up to a constitutional republic and rule of law. Painstaking equity that you are squandering. That is the crux of American exceptionalism. You just want to make us great. That's a downgrade. Our brand is not strategic uncertainty. And you are not the keeper of our pot of gold.
Desi came back swinging, breaking down Trump's relationship with facts like a soap opera love story full of passion, tears, and long stretches of separation. She played it like a romantic tragedy, where facts beg to be noticed while Trump keeps running back to his imagination instead. The chaos was so poetic, Shakespeare himself would have told her to calm down. Then Jon delivered this whole segment about Trump's superpower, making promises so massive and vague that no measurement on Earth could track them. Each one felt like someone trying to ski uphill during a hurricane. Jon revisited Trump's rally persona like he was reviewing a long-running play whose plot never changes, but somehow the performance gets more unhinged every night. You could almost hear the imaginary orchestra warming up in the background.
Didn't always think New York was a New York 2. Back in the day, he thought it was an LA 10.
I have a special interest in New York. New York City is a hot city. It's a great city. It's the greatest city in the world.
There's a greater energy in New York. There's a greater verve or a greater drive. New York City is the hottest city in the world right now. You know, I happen to be the biggest developer in the hottest city, so that's a very cool thing.
That's right. Not that long ago, Trump wanted to bang New York right in the Holland Tunnel. Sure, it wasn't a perfect relationship. There was the time in the 80s when Trump tried to evict his rent-controlled tenants. Then there was the time he wrote a letter to the mayor complaining that hot dog vendors were, I shit you not, splattering ketchup and mustard on the sidewalk.
Desi wrapped things up by comparing Trump's public image strategy to a home renovation, where every single wall gets replaced with a mirror, everything guided by one goal: maximum reflection. She didn't even have to spell anything out. The metaphor did all the heavy lifting. Jon closed the night with a poetic summary of Trump's whole media saga. A man sprinting away from accountability, powered by confidence, guided by volume, and navigated by pure grievance. The absurdity hung in the air like confetti at the world's strangest parade. And in the end, it wasn't anger or outrage that took the myth down. It was laughter sharp enough to cut straight through the illusion. Desi and Jon didn't need threats or drama. They just peeled the glitter off the performance and showed everyone the machinery underneath. By the time the lights dimmed, one thing was crystal clear. The myth was still loud, but the room finally understood it had always been hollow.